Good evening. My name is Abby Gruber, and I am the Director of the City of Westminster's Recreation and Parks Department. Welcome, and thank you for virtually attending the first of 3 planning and public input meetings for Wakefield Valley Park. We certainly were hoping to hold an in-person meeting this evening, as well as a virtual event. However, the weather has eliminated our opportunity to engage with you in person. Please know that although we can't be in the same room with you tonight, your presence and participation this evening is vitally important to the future of this valuable open space. Known to many as the former Wakefield Valley Golf Course, this 187-acre parcel of open space was deeded to the City of Westminster in February 2016. Since that time, the City of Westminster has allowed public use of this property for recreation and leisure pursuits. For more than 4 years now, many individuals, families, and groups, perhaps many of you watching this presentation, have taken advantage of this beautiful, unstructured space. A space that overtly or subtly encourages physical activity, which, as you know, over time, promotes significant and long-lasting improvements in mental and physical health. With that said, the City of Westminster recognizes the unique and fortunate opportunity that acquisition of this vast tract of property represents. Along with this opportunity comes a substantial responsibility to create the most beneficial, environmentally responsible use that will serve the greatest good of the community and surrounding areas. Acquiring valuable public input, your input, will allow the city to set in motion and fully recognize the potential of the former Wakefield Valley Golf Course as a park and recreation site. So you may be sitting there thinking, why a master planning process? The space is just fine as it is. Robert J. McCain, author of Realize Your Potential, said, "Strategic planning will help you fully uncover your available options, set priorities for them, and define the methods to achieve them." One of the priority projects identified in the Mayor and Common Council's strategic plan, included under responsible stewardship of city resources, is the determination of the future use of Wakefield Valley Park. As part of that effort, the strategic plan envisioned the development of a master plan for the park. The master plan will provide a foundation for the future phased development of the property and will also lay the groundwork for future city grant applications to finance park improvements. Moreover, the development of a park master plan would complement the city's growth efforts by cultivating a high-quality public park space that would become the signature park for the City of Westminster. In many instances throughout the United States, evidence shows desirable park spaces can have a significant impact on the economic life of cities big or small, and therefore become an essential part of any successful regeneration strategy. As cities and towns across the nation increasingly compete with one another to attract investment, the presence of good parks and other public spaces becomes a vital business and marketing tool. When surveyed, many companies state that they are attracted to locations that offer well-designed, well-managed public parks and open spaces, as these areas in turn attract customers, employees, and other quality services. Lastly, a carefully designed Wakefield Valley Park master plan and development strategy would provide valuable linkages to a plethora of city-owned recreational facilities, resulting in well over 7 miles of bike and pedestrian-friendly trails with direct access to the city's downtown business district. The transformative impact that the development of the Wakefield Valley Park property will have on the health and vitality of the City of Westminster is undeniable and exhilarating. On September 14th, 2020, the Mayor and Common Council authorized execution of a contract with Pannoni Associates Incorporated to assist the city with the development of the master plan. The project will be funded with grant monies from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. Land and Water Conservation funding aims to use the state's investment in parks, recreation, and open space to make communities throughout Maryland more desirable places to live, work, recreate, and visit. Securing a well-thought-out, professionally designed master plan and development strategy for the Wakefield Valley property is monumentally important to the City of Westminster. It is important to understand we are not here tonight to present a predetermined plan for the property that you must accept. We are here tonight to listen, absorb, and to bring you, the community, along with us in this exciting planning process. At the conclusion of tonight's meeting, your suggestions and comments will be inventoried, assessed, and applied to the next iteration of the master plan. Then, that version of the plan will be presented at another public meeting. Again, you will be invited to attend virtually or in person to review, discuss, and comment on the plan. This process will be repeated a third time before a final plan is created and hopefully embraced. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce to you this evening Mr. Peter Stone, Senior Landscape Architect with Pannoni Associates, a reputable and experienced engineering and landscape architecture firm.
Thanks, Abby. I'm really excited to be here this evening. Our team is really excited about this project. It's a unique opportunity from a professional standpoint. It's pretty rare that we get to start on a project at the very beginning and set up a plan that can be implemented over the years, just as time passes. And being able to be on the ground level with something like that it's really fun from a professional standpoint. The site itself is really unique. It's a really fantastic site. I've gotten to spend a little bit of time out there so far, and you have a really neat resource here in your community. A lot of times when we're doing these master plans, you're starting with a site that's totally undeveloped, and you kind of have to figure out how to implement a plan. And with something like this, it's unique in the sense that it's already an active recreation site, and it's being actively used by the community. And it's something that we can develop with your assistance, like Abby was saying, with input from the local officials and the local community. This is your resource. My personal background, I'm a landscape architect with Pannoni. Been with the firm over 20 years, and have done a lot of rec and parks work over the years, especially lately. But around Maryland and some in Delaware. But here in Carroll County, I've worked on a number of projects on the Gillis Falls Trails Park and then the Leicester Park project. Working also in other counties around the central Maryland area, and really happy to be here in the city of Westminster. We're going to go through a couple of things tonight as we talk about the master plan. I want to give everybody an overview of the project. A lot of you all probably know more about the site than I may know, but we've kind of gathered some information. Kind of briefly talk about the work that we've done to date, and then start to talk about the master plan itself, the things that we're looking at, the goals of the plan, the input that we're seeking from you. The site as a whole, like Abby was saying, it's 180 some acres. The image on the screen right now is showing the former golf course. The red boundary there is the existing site, and then you can kind of see towards the middle of the site the big parking lot, which you all go to when you go to the site. It's kind of your entry point into the site. So it's got a lot of open areas. It does have the stream valley that runs through the middle of the site, which is a fantastic opportunity for environmental restoration, improving water quality, improving wildlife habitat. There's a lot of things that can be done with that corridor system. The site itself it's got a lot of history. Obviously, anything around the central Maryland area is going to have a long history, whether it's kind of the prehistoric history or the time since European settlement started in the area. The site does have a historic structure, which is something that will be considered tangentially as part of the master plan, but isn't the primary focus of the plan. And then obviously with the site, it's got this history where I'm sure it was used for farming and agricultural purposes at some point in the past. And then more recently, the golf course developed, and the community developed around that golf course, just with a different type of open space, but an open space nonetheless that could be used. And then now we're talking about kind of this, it's being used as a park, but we're talking about how to kind of take that park idea and really develop it, look at other opportunities for activities that could be incorporated into the site, and just the use of the site itself. We have done a number of, taken some preliminary steps on the master plan process. So the team from Pannoni has been out to the site several times. We spent an afternoon out there in, I guess, November, and just walked around the site, understood kind of some of the main features of the site, got to experience kind of what you all experience when you're out there, and started looking at the, as part of our mapping exercise, where are the significant resources from an environmental standpoint that we need to be looking at on the site that we need to preserve? Where are areas that development could occur? Where's the existing development? Where's the focus of the current site itself? And then also looking into kind of where are existing trails off-site that we need to connect to. Where's the park access? Is the access adequate? Does the access need to be improved? Those are all kind of parts of the master plan itself that we've been looking at. As part of our site analysis, we look at a lot of those items that I just had on the slide before, and this is kind of one example of kind of a site analysis exercise where we look at the site, again, with the red boundary, and look at where the floodplain is. Where's that area where once every 100 years, or when in those bigger storms, an area that floods and is inundated with water? That's an area that we need to understand where that is, so we need to probably stay out of that area with our development. We need to look at alternative areas for doing any more intense development. Things like trails can typically be included in those floodplain areas, but we're looking to understand the site itself and where those areas are that we need to avoid or treat with special care. And then we've also started looking at some preliminary master plan goals. So as we look at the plan itself, we do this analysis and we kind of understand the site, but then we also look at specific goals that we've discussed with the Rec and Park staff and with the mayor and council, and try to use those goals to help guide the plan, to help direct kind of the plan that we'll put forward as far as where certain activities are proposed, where the focus of certain parts of the plan is. So these goals will help with that. And I've listed 5 goals that were kind of our framework at this point for the master plan. And one of those is looking at the development of additional park activities. The main activities that are out there at this point are the walking, running, hiking type activities where you're moving along a linear path system. There's not a lot of these kind of what I'll call, and we'll get to this later on, but more destination type activities. So what are additional activities that maybe would be appropriate for the site that maybe aren't available elsewhere in the city and that could be implemented here? What's the access to the site like? Does it need improved vehicular access? Are there alternative vehicular access points that could be considered, taking into account all the other things that we're looking at, like environmental restrictions? Connectivity, where can this site connect to, for instance, the adjacent Wakefield Valley Trail system? And making that connection can then just give this fantastic trail system to the city, where currently on site there's probably somewhere around about 6 miles of trails, and if you're connecting to another system that's even longer, it really gives the city a fantastic resource that residents can use. How do we restore the site? How do we restore that stream buffer? Do we do replanting? Is there selective clearing that needs to occur to remove invasive species? How do we restore wildlife habitat kind of in that floodplain area, which can help with flooding issues potentially, obviously improve water quality. So that's something that will be part of the master plan as well. And then the history of the site. How does the site, can the site kind of tell the story? Can we tell a story through the master plan about the history of the site? Whether it's the kind of human history or the European human history from 1767 on forward, or the Native American history prior to that. How do we tell that story with the master plan? Is there a way to do that? So I'd mentioned linear and destination activities a little bit ago. So a linear activity is one where you're kind of moving along a route through a space, kind of going from point A to point B. And usually it's a fairly small footprint, a narrow footprint. A trail is anywhere from 6 to 10 feet wide, maybe a little wider. Trails have different surfaces, but they're a narrow footprint. There's not a lot of disturbance. And it's typically centered around activities like hiking, walking, running, biking, those kinds of things, horseback riding, cross-country skiing in the wintertime, maybe tomorrow. A lot of the site's current use is based around those activities. And the history of the site as a golf course is kind of, again, centered around a linear type form of activity. But then we have destination activities where somebody may be in a single area for a longer period of time. A lot of times these require kind of a larger area. They require kind of more development, more site clearing, site grading, that type of thing. But a lot of times they're connected by a linear network. So as we start thinking about kind of a linear network and various destinations along that network, that's one way that we can start to organize the plan. These destination activities, I mean, a lot of times there's ball fields, pavilions, playgrounds, maybe just big open lawn areas where somebody can go throw a Frisbee or have a picnic. Dog parks might be an example of a destination type activity. And I've given some examples here of different linear and destination activities. So some linear activities, trails, benches, cross-country skiing. It sounds like that's something people are going to be able to do a lot of, hopefully this winter, maybe on the site. Bridges associated with trails, kind of that's a linear type activity. Biking on a trail. Hiking, whether it's an asphalt path or maybe a stone path or even just a grass path. There's a lot of opportunity for that on this particular site. But then you have destination activities, which again are connected by a linear network, can be. Playgrounds, where you're bringing people to an area where they're going to stay for a while. Maybe there's benches associated with that. Pavilions, and maybe it's not just a kind of an open air pavilion, but maybe there's restrooms associated with it or a fireplace, something where people can go to and sit for a while, have a large group gathering. Play fields, whether it's soccer, baseball, softball, those kinds of things, just these multi-purpose type fields. That's something where you're going to bring people to an area. Picnic areas, same thing. And this site kind of lends itself a lot to that. And things like dog parks. That's something that we see a lot these days. It's got its pros and cons. It's something to be discussed. Community gardens are another potential type of activity. It's maybe not traditionally thought of as part of a park, but could be something that would work well here. So the meeting purpose, the reason that we're coming together tonight to present this is to get input from you all. Abby mentioned that we're going to have a series of 3 meetings over the course of the next couple of months. And the purpose of the meetings is to kind of gain input from the city residents and the mayor and council on the plan itself, so that as we're putting the plan together, we're not just operating in a vacuum. We're not kind of doing something that we think would work well, but in reality maybe doesn't work with the particular needs of the city itself. So with this initial plan, we wanted to kind of start to gather input about the master plan. We've started putting together a real preliminary master plan. And what you see on the screen is started to identify kind of in that light green shading areas that we probably want to stay away from, want to stay out of and minimize our development of. Those are the more sensitive portions of the site, whether it's a floodplain or a stream buffer, the existing ponds that are on site, maybe some areas that have steeper slopes. Those are areas we're trying to avoid. The yellow bubbled areas are areas where we've kind of identified as, hey, maybe this is a potential area for some future type of development. We'd have to look at kind of sizes of activities and types of activities and things like that, and proximity to kind of the main park entry. But those are maybe, that's something, that's what those yellow areas are. And then the blue dotted lines, the light blue dotted lines are a proposed trail system, using a lot of the existing trail system. There is a lot of the existing system that can be reused and kind of piggybacked upon. But there's some areas where we thought maybe we should tweak it some. And this is a preliminary shot at kind of laying some of this stuff out. Definitely not a final master plan. And then we've also indicated kind of a number of stream crossings across that central stream valley corridor. And then some potential areas where maybe there's a destination, like a big pavilion or something where there's a really fantastic view. So this is the initial plan, and what we're trying to obtain from the residents is thoughts on the site itself, thoughts of kind of what's important when you go to the site. Where do you go? What do you do? What's your favorite time of day to come to the site? What's your favorite time of year? Just to understand kind of how people feel about the site and what they really go to the site for, and what are the important parts of the site. So that's one aspect of one portion of the input that we're seeking to obtain. And then the other is just looking at different activities that could be included in a park, and kind of what are important activities from the resident standpoint that should be included in the park. Not that we're going to be able to include every single activity, but trying to understand what's important here. We don't necessarily want to make just a big series of ball fields here. It's too unique of a site to do something like that. Maybe there's room for a ball field or two, but I think there's a lot of room for other types of activities as well, and kind of want to hear what those important activities are. What do you do when you go to a park? What would be an important activity? So that's really what we'd like to hear from you. We will take that information, work with staff, and continue to push the plan forward and develop it more. And then hopefully here in the next month or so, be back to kind of show an update and then continue to work to refine the plan. Really looking forward to hearing everybody's input, and just developing this further and working with you all on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. This concludes our presentation this evening. As you endeavor into the process of providing input through our virtual platform, please keep in mind the following. We value your input. We want to make sure that Wakefield Valley Park is something that not only you will be proud of and proud to have in your community, but generations after you will be grateful to you for your foresight and participation in the planning process. Not everyone will have the same thoughts and ideas about this project. Please be respectful of everyone's input and opinions. Think bigger than you. When responding to the visuals, remember that you are part of a large, diverse community with a variety of needs. Perhaps you don't particularly care if the park has a dedicated area for wildlife viewing, but your neighbor may be an avid birder. Lastly, questions regarding this project can be submitted to wakefieldcomments@westgov.com. Please note, emailed questions will not be answered in real time, but will be answered within 48 hours of this evening's meeting and will also become part of the public record. The public comment period will remain open, and this presentation will also be available for viewing on the city's website through December 23rd, 2020. Please stay tuned for instructions on how to submit your input virtually. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brandy, and today I am going to walk you through how to use Padlet. First, let's talk about why Padlet was chosen for the Wakefield Valley public meeting. Padlet is an existing web-based application to help visually organize ideas and inputs. Padlet is open to all and does not require creating an account. However, if you would like your comments entered into the public record, please be sure to add your first and last name. Let's begin by opening up Padlet by clicking on the link or using your phone to scan the QR code. As you can see, it will take us to an aerial view of Wakefield Valley. You will begin to see pink pins. You can click on them and it will open up comments left by someone else in the community. If you see anonymous, it only means that that person who left this comment did not create a Padlet account. Pins will automatically update on your screen as more comments are posted. If you want to navigate the map, you can do so with the plus and minus icons at the bottom right hand of your screen. The plus sign will zoom you in and the minus sign will zoom you out. You can then click and drag to move the screen around. If you want to create your own pin, simply click on the pink plus symbol in the upper right-hand side of your screen. Posts are saved automatically, so there is no save button. The best way to add your pin is to use option number 2 and to drag and drop your pin into the location. Once you do so, it will ask you to select an address, and the easiest way to do this is to scroll to the bottom of the list and select the GPS coordinates. If you decide to use option 1, enter former Wakefield Valley Golf. And if your pin is not put within the development area boundary, the Padlet moderator will relocate it to the parking lot. When adding a comment, please begin by sharing your first name. It is not required. Keep one comment or idea per post and note that there is no text limit on a comment. You can also include a picture within your comment. Lastly, you are not allowed to edit your posts if you have not created a Padlet account. One other feature of Padlet we are going to go over today is the photo board. Begin by clicking on the link or using your phone and scanning the QR code. When it opens, you will see a bunch of photos and comments. Any anonymous users are individuals who did not create a Padlet account, and posts will automatically update as more comments are posted. To create your own comment on the Padlet photo board, simply click on the pink plus symbol at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Please share your first name in the comments, but again, this is not required. Keep one comment or idea per post, and there is no limitation on the amount of text you can have per comment. You can even add a photo to your comment.